And we spend about $395 billion globally on training. And that includes hard skills training, soft skills training, compliance training, and so on.
Welcome to another $4 million strategy, the best 4 minutes in business for strategy and techniques on how to increase the value of your business. Today, we have with us Elena Agara. She is going to share with us best practices on ongoing training. Elena, what can we do?
Well, let's just start with the fact how much money we spend on training. So globally, I think it was a McKinsey report that came out last year. And we spend about $395 billion globally on training. And that includes hard skills training, soft skills training, compliance training, and so on. Out of all that money, you would imagine that there's going to be a huge impact on the workforce. Well, think again, because at the end of the day, a person will retain 7% of information a week after the actual training happens. So before you go into any kind of training and having ongoing training, ask yourself the question, is training needed? And this is coming from a training development perspective, a professional who really believes in training. But I see a lot of requests coming from companies to do specific trainings. And when you start having conversations with, the managing directors or kind of the stakeholders, you start to recognize that actually the problem they're looking to solve is not going to be solved with this training, and it's something else. So I think just looking at just your training programs in general, why are you doing this? What do you think you're going to get out of it? And when it comes to creating a learning organization where people are continuously learning, it's not one-off, 1 week training or once in a while training. It needs to be embedded in the organization. What do I mean by that? Is that everybody in the organization needs to speak the same language around learning. So what that means is that there needs to be embedded systems and processes in place to help people be continuous learners. A lot of things that work really well is peer learning groups, right? Like again, throughout maybe, a couple of times in a year, there's a specific peer learning group. Maybe it's monthly. Some companies do it that way. There's also mentorship and coaching that can be a really great part of that ongoing training. So making sure that your managers are equipped with the mentorship and coaching capabilities to keep their members learning. Because even if you send your team off and then they train and you spend tons of money on an amazing training with the best of the best, and then they come back and there's no reinforcement, there's no ongoing reinforcement of what was learned and how it can be applied in the workforce, you've just wasted a ton of money and people's time as well. So I think keeping, number one, is it really necessary? How are you going to make sure to reinforce it? And how are you going to make sure you're an organization that is continuously learning? So it has to be part of your performance reviews. It has to be part of everything that you do. And you have to make time for it. That's the key. You have to make time for it. And if you need any motivation, I always think of just, who do you want to be in the future as a company? What do you want the company to look like? Because without continuous learning, it's very easy to be left behind.
I love what you said about just through this whole process. And one of the biggest challenges is there's training budgets. And often it seems like it's just spent to be spent, as opposed to let's actually try to figure out who we want to be. And then what I really liked about it is becoming a learning organization, right? It's amazing, the same McKinsey data probably shows of how many training, how little of it gets retained. And that continuing learning process will help make sure it is retained. It is continuously happening. So you're going to get the benefit, what you intended all along. Elena, thank you so much for being a part of $4 million strategies.